Good morning, Nigeria, and I make you welcome. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike. We kick off today's morning, a very wet but great morning with our newspapers, and right after that will be our main conversation also for today. Please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can find us when you reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very so honored to have with us, joining us via Zoom, Gbenga Komolafe. He is the General Secretary, Federation of Informal Workers Organization of Nigeria, FIWON, if you want. Good morning to you, Mr. Gbenga Komolafe.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, sir, for your time. And I would love that we start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And we have the big story. Parties, the president shouldn't appoint INEC. And on the top strip, we have other interesting stories. Senate to debate genocide claim against Christians in Nigeria. And we equally have other matters. Tinubu orders a reduction of 2026 Hajj affair, and 2027 court asks to stop Jonathan from contesting. I would love us to start with the issue of president shouldn't appoint INEC chairman. According to the Constitution 1999 as amended, the president is given the right to appoint or nominate who becomes the INEC chairman upon the verification of the Senate. But a situation where the president is party to the election or is equally a candidate to the election, do you think it makes any sense that he is there to appoint who becomes the referee when we believe the referee would work in his favor?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you have answered in a way answered the question. It is absolutely unfair for the president, who actually is a party in a major interested party in the elections, to also be the one that will appoint the election umpire. One would have expected a more level playing ground that will allow for a process that will allow a little bit impartial, that will be responsible for the selection and appointment of INEC chairman, who is a very critical person in election administration in Nigeria. It's one of those anomalies in the Constitution, I think, that people have had to complain about. And given the history of partisan elections in Nigeria, I think I will agree with the sentiment that it is time that element in the Constitution be amended such that we have a more level playing ground and have a more a little bit impartial process for the selection of the election.
All right, but let's look into another growing concern here. But I would love to, just before I move on to another question, do you think the type of politics we play in Nigeria, especially that by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which is riddled in what he said, grab it, take it and run with it, when he was addressing a team of his loyalists in London, do you think such kind of political participation would even give President Bola Ahmed Tinubu the moral to want to hear what people are talking about with respect to him not appointing who the INEC chairman is?
I mean, we expect that, just like you said, given the history of electoral processes in Nigeria, which have been marked by all manner of practices, violence, and outright election rigging, we have expected that the umpire of INEC will come up through a much more costly partial process. The history itself bears out the concern that have been expressed by various parties about the same president that have been alleged or have been party to widespread election malpractices, to also be the one that will still have to appoint the primary election umpire. I think it's a sentiment that is well grounded. It's a concern that is well grounded in our experience and history of electioneering in Nigeria.
All right, but let's move on to another electioneering issue here. 2027, court asked to stop Jonathan, that's Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, from contesting. I do not know, what's your submission on this? People are saying that if he is given the opportunity to contest, which means that possibly he would have to serve 3 terms. I do not know, do you believe that? Knowing that he completed 2 terms of his boss who died in the course, served 1 term, and is interested to go for yet another term. Do you think that is, if compiled together, is serving a president given the opportunity for 3 terms? Do you think it makes any sense?
I'm not sure Jonathan has served 2 terms. I'm not a lawyer, but I think the first time he actually served out the late President Umar Yar'Adua's term in office. We all remember President Umar Yar'Adua died without completing his term of office, and Jonathan Jerry had to step in
as the president.
President Umar Yar'Adua term as president. Yes. And then later contested on his own merit. So I would think that it would be unfair to say President Jonathan has served out 2 terms already. I think he served a term as president of Nigeria, as elected by Nigerians to that position. Why he served out, he had to serve out, I think, for about 2 years.
Yes.
The President Umar Yar'Adua presidency. So as far as I know, I think President Jonathan has served only 1 term in office. And so should ordinarily be eligible to contest for the 2nd term. But the matter has been taken to court, and I think the court should, all the interested parties should have their court. We all wait to see what the court will have to say. But I would say that I also wonder why President Jonathan wants to come back. Why are doing that? It's within his rights to want to come back to contest for 2nd term. I personally do not know why he wants to come back, because he had all the time. He had a cumulative period of over 6 years to make whatever statement he wants to make as president, whatever contribution he wanted to make as president, and rather we had a rather lackluster tenure, which for many Nigerians was not particularly very inspiring. So given that record in office, I don't know, maybe, and even now, it's not even saying anything new. It's not coming out with a message that gives hope, that inspires, that he actually has something different to do, has something different on his sleeves that has to offer Nigerians. So, given all that context, why granted I have his right to contest, I do not know whether President Goodluck actually is the kind of president we have for this moment.
All right, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper for today. Big story here on the front page. Student loan. NEL fund kicks as in institutions hike tuition fees charges for profit. And another growing interesting matter here is United States pressure triggers federal government and the Senate push back on alleged Christian persecution. I would love us to take on this particular matter alleged by the U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, who had alleged that Christian community are being slowly killed and massacred in different parts of the country. I would love to have your take on this. Those and within the confines of the presidency have come to deny this. But as a Nigerian, like I do, living in Nigeria, do you think what Ted Cruz and other senators in the U.S. are saying should be taken home, or should we blame the presidency for not doing what is needful at this point?
Well, I think Senator Ted Cruz has a right to be concerned. We all
All right. I think we're having a network issue there, and Mr. Bringa Komalafe was speaking to the issue alleged by Ted Cruz and other senators. All right, he's back. Thank you so very much for being back. Yeah, we lost you a bit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that we know, Senator Ted Cruz anticipated as an evangelical Christian activist. I think within that context, we understand why we will be concerned that Christians are persecuted in Nigeria or in any part of the world. But I'm not really sure that the killings we are having, the violence we are having in Nigeria, all over Nigeria now, is specifically directed at Christians. Of course, historically, we've had clashes, religious clashes in Nigeria. But the latest rounds of violence, banditry, irredentism we have all over the country, particularly in northern parts of the country, is specifically directed at Christians. We've had occasions where Muslims have also been targeted. We've had occasions where mosques have been bombed, Muslims have been killed in recent past. We've had occasions where both Muslims and Christians have been kidnapped. I think Senator Ted Cruz should be generally, any outsider for that matter, should be generally concerned about the widespread violence that has involved in the Nigerian landscape and that has affected both Christian and Muslim communities over the past few decades now. It has been said that the federal government has not done enough. It has been alleged even by security experts that the Nigerian government has evidence, have dossiers of the sponsors of this violence and has refused to act accordingly. I think that should be what is of serious concern to everyone, including our foreign friends. Yes, sometimes the violence also takes sectarian religious nature, where we see Christian communities, especially in the Northeast, targeted for killing and kidnapping. But like I said earlier, the violence has been evenly distributed. Perhaps it might be more correct to talk of the headed clashes, where we've had occasions where headers, in quotes, harmed headers have attacked communities, and I don't think that's particularly religious. Such attacks are of religious nature. They attack communities and kidnap everyone, kill whoever is on their path, whether Christian or Muslim. I would be cautious for a foreign figure like Ted Cruz to give religious only religious connotation to the violence we have in Nigeria, because it might actually aggravate climate feelings and people might start seeing that kind of intervention as validation of sectarian claims. I think the focus really should be on how we end this specter of relentless violence all over Nigeria, whether it's Christian, Muslim, whether it's herder, farmers, whether it's just sheer banditry, like we have particularly in the Northwest and even in the South. I think what should be of concern is that government has and is seen to act to bring the perpetrators responsible for this violence to book.
But don't you think it's a shame? Don't you think it's a shame that it took the intervention of a senator miles away, hundreds of miles away from Nigeria, to speak up before the 10th Assembly, as led by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, to want to do something about it? Unfortunately, while the 10th Assembly should be talking about things like this, they were busy debating on Natasha and so many other issues that have no significance to the Nigerian public. So the question is, like I said before, don't you think it's a big shame on the 10th Assembly that it took the speaking up from a senator outside of the country to get their attention to do something about the growing issue of insecurity in the fatherland?
We're talking about shame. I think there are quite a lot of things happening in our National Assembly that a lot of people find extremely shameful, if I'm to quote your words. Beyond the certain committee after TheCable has made a statement, of course it's shameful, but we have had much more shameful acts of gross insensitivity and absolute lack of leadership at the level of the National Assembly. Like I made the point earlier, it is a given fact. And I want to make reference to statements from the likes of Commodore Adewumi, retired, came out on national TV with the claim that as a national security operative, while in service under President Jonathan, they had comprehensive such a tragedy that so many years after, nothing has been done to bring these people to book. Nothing has been done to actually act on the intelligence that they made available to government. For me, that's really great achievement. Of course, the shenanigans and Natasha and so on and so forth has been a subject of national gross entertainment. It's also something that would every decent Nigerian will find extremely disturbing. The amount of energy, the time, the quality time that's devoted to address the sitting arrangement of the senator, whether it should be seated and whether it should be suspended or not, so on and so forth. It's absolutely repulsive, to say the least. Shame perhaps is only a very mild word to use. We don't want to go for that.
You don't want to sound defamatory.
But just let me use this opportunity to appeal to the federal government that they should act on information already made available to them and bring the sponsors and perpetrators of this relentless violence all over the country.
Beautiful. In 60 seconds, if we may, let's just take our last story. A student loan. NEL fund kicks as institutions hike tuition fees, charges for a profit. What's your take on this handout that is becoming regular with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Most of the people who are given this advice are people who profited from subsidized education. I went to university in the late 90s when it was easier to pay, and every parent could readily pay for university fees and accommodation. And when it is time for some of these people who profited from the 70s, the 80s and the 90s to ensure that our children and our children's children benefit from their own institutional correctness, they rather make it even worse. Do you think that giving loans to students is the best bet at a time like this, when the world is giving subsidies to their students in different parts?
Thank you. I think this is one of the most outrageous policies of this country. To want to introduce student loans. I mean, the entire philosophy behind it, the entire reason is absolutely faulty. First of all, we have a situation where graduates are not short of jobs after graduation. You are not even sure you are able to get a job. Meanwhile, the government is making it possible, or rather is making access to education possible or predicated on students are able to access loans or education credit. And at the end of which you are not sure of a job. And so, I'm sure they borrowed this idea from the US.
Yes.
And I know that even in the US, you have vast avenues for scholarships. And it's only it might not a percentage of the students that have to actually pay. You know, if you can't get scholarships one way or the other, then of course you have to pay fees and you can take loan. And typically, we know that that's a system that runs on credit anyway. You know, and by the time you are graduating, you are assured of a job, of a decent job, and of a planned period or repayment of the loans you know, taking for education. And you want to adopt that kind of system in a situation where any capacity of your Nigerian president has been eroded by relentless, regressive economic policies that we have had. Even before President Tinubu came on board, we've had all manner of terrible economic policies. We've had gross underfunding of the educational sector. Infrastructures have decayed. Successive government have refused to invest in education, and rather have been promoting the proliferation of private universities, some of which, from evidence available to us, are just running what I would call ramshackle, education to Nigerian youth, and charging whatever fees they like, because government itself had completely abdicated its responsibility to make education affordable and accessible to as many young Nigerians as are interested in pursuing higher education. So NEL fund is an aggravation of a very terrible situation that is coming at a very depressed economic environment. At a level where the national currency is having devalued by over 400% in the space of less than 2 years. Economic factors like fuel pricing and so on has become unaffordable to most Nigerians, and productive capacity have been severely circumscribed by this kind of policies. Now you bring education credit. First of all, we show that after graduation, they are going to even get the jobs. And now we have a situation where what they have to offer as credit is becoming grossly inadequate to cope with the relentless fee hike by the institutions. So, so even if you want to take the loans, it does nothing to help you to actually pay the fees. So what's the point? The truth is that Nigerian government and Nigerians should wake up. Nigerian government should prevail upon to actually make education accessible, to increase funding for education, and to start distracting us with all these ideas of having education credit, of having students take jobs, and so on and so forth. Let there be more serious funding for education, to revamp the sector, to employ more quality staff, make inputs more available, and then rebuild the physical infrastructures for more conducive learning environment. We have situations in a lot of institutions right now where hundreds of students have to, listen to lectures with dilapidated infrastructure. Some will sit on the window, some will hang outside the lecture rooms, and so on and so forth. And that's what people are being made to take loans to pay for. I think it's time that Nigerians should awake, to actually demand greater accountability and better sensitivity and responsiveness to the needs of Nigerian people. The way the Nigerian government is treating young people particularly is abysmal. It's so sad because it's as it were, it's like they think young people have lost their voice, they have lost the muscle to resist retrogressive policies. And so they take the Nigerians right roughshod on them. It's so sad. I will appeal to Nigerians to wake up and make the right kind of demands on the Nigerian government to wake up to its responsibilities to provide functional, accessible, and affordable education for Nigerian youth.
Thank you so very much. It's awesome that you said all of this, because while we'll grapple with our laxity and our lack of contribution to our educational system, little countries like Ghana are making about $1.2 billion from Nigerians who are going to public schools in Ghana to study. Imagine that money plunged back to the country. That would have done a lot, but of course, the government of the day are not ready. And that is why we have issues like this. Just to let you know, people, that Mr. Gbenga Komolafe will still be here to take us on our main conversation in a bit. That is when we return. PENGASSAN sacks NGIC, NGML leaders for botched strike action against Dangote. In a bit, still Enterprise Morning. Please don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Thank you so very much for being back. And if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our main conversation for today. The Petroleum and the Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, has dissolved the branch executive councils of the Nigeria Gas Infrastructure Company Limited, NGIC, and the NNPC Gas Marketing Limited, NGML, over their failure to completely halt gas supply to the Dangote Refinery during the association's nationwide strike. On September 28, PENGASSAN began the strike, directing its members to cut gas production and supply to the refinery. However, the NGIC and NGML branches reportedly failed to achieve a total shutdown, prompting allegations of collusion and acceptance of monetary gifts from management, accusations the affected branches have strongly denied. And also in their defense, members of the NGIC and NGML Congress said their leaders made significant efforts to carry out the strike directive, including partial shutdown and other risky actions described as unprecedented by management. They explained that while some valves were closed, the complete shutdown was hindered by continued gas injection from the producer and the presence of military personnel. The members appealed to PENGASSAN's national leadership to reconsider the dissolution, arguing that the executive deserved a fair hearing rather than punishment, as their actions were in line with the union's objective and carried out at personal risk. I still have with me Gbenga Komalafe, General Secretary, Federation of Informal Workers Organization of Nigeria. Thank you so very much, sir, for being here and for hanging on.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. Now, I'm so excited and happy that I have a personality like you to discuss on issues like this, which I would love to believe are your area of interest and your niche. As someone who is a part of an organization, how does it really work actually when the top echelon directs that something be carried out and a particular sect of the institution or organization refuses to do that for national interest's sake? Do you think that such a sect should be punished for safeguarding issue that is of national interest? What's your take, please?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I think it's important to make some preliminary statements. I've read reports about this PENGASSAN branch reported by a lot of newspapers. It will appear to me that even that act in itself is anti-union. If the local branch will be satisfied with the action of the national leadership, they have ample opportunities within the context of that union to protest, to make representations, and to seek for redress. But it will appear that they just run to all the newspapers to say, hey, this is what our leaders have done, we did our best, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. I think that act in itself is anti-union, because as a unionist, you don't go out to say what, to ventilate your grapples in the papers, without exhaustively exploiting all avenues for redress within the union itself. I don't see anything that they have done that. Then it also appears that Dangote Refinery management is spending a lot of money to actually campaign against the union. I think those preliminary statements is very, very important for us to actually appreciate what's happening. Yeah, the leadership, the national leadership, most unions are structured in such a way that the national leadership of the union has some latitude when the leadership feels that branch has acted or travails, against the best interest of the union and the entirety of the workers in that union. In this particular instance, we all know the story. The union have to call it strike because Dangote has refused unionization of workers in his plant and has gone on to victimize workers who insisted on their right to be member of a union by actually firing those workers. That's a gross violation of labor law provision in the country. If the Dangote Refinery has employers had issues with a set of workers. There are grievance handling machinery and established procedures for dealing with whatever problem they have with those set of workers. Not by in the first instance, just firing them.
Yes, but Dangote, but yes, sir, but Dangote alleged that there were issues of sabotage by those that they had fired. Because how do you expect you create a business and create employment for people, and they end up sabotaging the operation of the business, which will not only hurt the company but equally hurt you, who is an employee? So how do you make of this matter? Don't you think Dangote has the right to go? Yes.
I don't think so. I think Dangote has every responsibility to obey the Nigerian laws that guide the conduct of employer-employees and the relationship between the two. Let me make the point that Dangote, beyond the refinery now, historically has been guilty of gross anti-worker conduct. I remember vividly in the early 2010s that people had to cry out that Dangote was emptying thousands of gardeners, thousands of drivers, thousands of fitters, of welders in Obaja's factory. Now you want to tell me that we don't have Nigerians qualified to be gardeners, to be drivers, to be fitters, to be welders, and that was in broad violation of the expatriate quota law. And nothing was done because of individuals who are bigger than the country. And then this blackmail of somebody providing employment. You provide employment on certain terms and conditions that is known to law. Yes, Nigerians are looking for jobs, but not for slave jobs. What we have in this country now is that we have slave jobs. We have people being paid 34,000 naira, doing very strenuous work, being paid 34,000 naira below minimum wage.
Yeah, but not Dangote, Mr. Komolafe.
And when unions talk, they say they are providing jobs. What kind of jobs? We should also be concerned. Nigerians are being made in some of these sweatshops called factories. What kind of jobs? What nature of jobs? Under what conditions? The Dangote workers, nobody has ever bothered to listen to what the Dangote workers have to say. And why they are insisting on unionization, because they understand the slave conditions. They are the ones that experience the slave conditions under which they are part to operate in Dangote's employment. So the point we are making is that yes, as we have people who create jobs. Will be decent. That's why even in the intentional content we talk of decent jobs, should earn wages that at least can pay for the most basic minimum necessities of life, and that respect the freedom of workers to free associate. So Dangote cannot. Then the allegation of sabotage that address some of the issues you have raised has to be proven. If indeed these workers are sabotaging anything, that's criminal and should be dealt as such. Dangote should arrest those who have sabotaged his operations, take them to court if necessary, and to seek redress. That's how it's done. You don't come out and level wide-eyed about people who are very little voice. And yet you don't want them to belong to a union that can give them some voice to also be able to state their own side of the story. And Nigerians have this nonsense about because somebody provides them issue rule over your life under whatever condition he likes. I think we should not because of the conditions which these very people have imposed on us, now accept as slave-like conditions in our country. That's the truth. And let's also remember that this is the same Dangote that actually bought several thriving industry in this country, strip them of their assets and close them down. That's how they made their billions. So, Nigerians should be better educated about these issues. Workers' rights should be respected. And the law that governs employees should also be recognized and respected by every employer, including people like Dangote, which should provide some kind of leadership. It will be outrageous that foreign employers even respect Nigerian labor laws better than so-called Nigerian employers. It's sad.
Yes, it's truly very sad, but unfortunately we run a capitalist system of government, and which has come to stay, which is equally part of what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is bringing to bear, with subsidy removal and asking Nigerians to pay the right price for fuel when we have it in abundance, the floating of the naira, and so on and so forth. But I'd love you to speak to the complicity of the government. Kashim Shettima, the vice president, has decided to stand by Dangote as against PENGASSAN at this point. So how do you think PENGASSAN can survive a situation where the government of the day that makes laws, that makes policies, are standing on the side of one man against a large population of other Nigerians who equally want equity in the ecosystem?
Thank you. The crisis in the Nigerian industrial relations predates this government. It's actually beyond Dangote. I was privileged to do a study of the oil and gas sector in 2019, just before COVID, in 2020. And what I discovered was absolutely outrageous. I spoke with workers who have worked in the oil and gas industry for upward of 18 years, 17 years, on 30,000 naira as at 2019. Who are doing very sensitive jobs. I spoke with workers in the Gema, I spoke with workers in Nefra, in the Ogini plant, Warri, and so on and so forth. The story was the same. And I discovered that over 93% of the workforce in the oil and gas sector are actually casuals. So when people come and say they blame PENGASSAN, they blame Peng, that Nigerian refineries are not working, I just laugh. Because in large measure, these unions are not even in those places anymore. The workers have been outsourced. I had workers told me, engineers with Chevron, telling me how by this time of the year, October, November, they are developing their operation. Because they are going to be laid off by December. And they may not be employed maybe February, March, the subsequent year. They may or may not be employed. The companies do that because they want to keep them as perpetually as casuals. So they sack them, they employ them, and sometimes you don't even get employed. So you are a perpetual contract worker under the most demeaning conditions. And as contract workers, you cannot even be unionized. And progressively, these unions have been weakened because they have massive members. So I laugh when people say, why are they protesting against after providing job? What jobs? So we speak from the context of the relentless assault on the rights of Nigerians to decent work in accordance with international statutes that govern employment, especially the ILO convention, International Labour Organization conventions. They are basic decent work paradigms, and the right to organize and unionize is one of them. Dangote has been known for its unionization. And in this instance, when people are led to sabotage, I just laugh. Who will sabotage Dangote and still be working free within 48 hours will not have been arrested? So these are just blackmail, these are just cheap lies. And if they are true, let him come out with proofs and let him take those people to court that have sabotaged him. So we've had a government that has been perpetual collusion with Nigerians to balkanize the workforce in Nigeria, turn workers to slaves in their own country, so that the few money people can come to make their super profits. And we know that those in government want share in some of these companies. Those in government are the ones that even owns the outsourcing companies. I have it on good authority that we have senators, we have House of Reps members, we have all manner of politicians who have outsourcing companies, who supply labor to these companies. And as an outside worker, you have no right. You are not a member of the union. So it's within that context that some of us really feel very concerned about what has just happened in this particular instance, because we know where it's all coming from. Again, because we are nothing to explain Nigeria, and it's almost pointless talking to government or advising government or appealing to government to do the right things. For me, it's to Nigerians that will be appeal. They should understand what's going on. They should be more sensitive to the more salient things involved in these matters, so that they can stand up to their right to decent work, to their right to unionization. That somebody is providing jobs does not mean he will turn Nigerian to slaves in their own land.
But you will agree with me, obviously, at this point, that action is equals to reaction. Most of the time when you take a look at a forensic look into this unionization of workers, some pockets of people have used that as an advantage of malice to get whatever it is that they want. Let's take a very simple example. The Nigerian Labour Congress at some point in 2023 became more like a party working with the Labour Party, and lots of shenanigans we saw at that point. It wasn't supposed to be so. So don't you think the reason some of these blue chip organizations, companies do not want their workers to be part of a union is because of issues like this, where individuals use the union as a springboard for their selfish interest against blue chip institutions and organizations and companies?
Well, honestly, I don't mean what you mean by individual using unions as a springboard to pursue selfish interests. What I do know is that workers are Nigerians. Workers have the right to political participation. Workers do not have rights only to vote. They also have the right to stand for election and be voted for because they are open things and they have a stake. Okay? So, workers and their unions have a fundamental right to participate in the electoral process. You can quarrel with the nature of participation. You can quarrel with particular stance they take or the direction they go. But you cannot change that right. Because if you chunk away that right, just because you are not happy with what some people are doing at some unions are doing at any particular point in time, now you want to take the right to political participation, then it's going to hound everybody later. So I always like to diverse principles.
Okay.
So even why emissions might be very high about failed expectations. I must say that that's why my disappointment with the nature of their political participation. But I will be the last person to now want to say why did they do that? Do they even have rights to be involved or whatever? So I think I want to make that distinction. Now, I understand where your question or proposal is coming from anyway. Nigerians, because of their disappointment with the role of labor in politics, now want to take it on. To do the most basic thing, they are supposed to condemn the workers' leadership. I think it's a wrong strategy. In this particular instance, workers' rights, the right to decent work, the right protest of the laws governing employer-employee relationship. We should not vitiate that right just because we are not happy with specific roles the leadership of the trade unions have played at some particular period of time, especially by way of their politics. I think we should make this very clear distinctions. So having said that, the point now will be to also be balanced, to say, okay, unions also should be more alert to their political and social responsibility, to their members and to Nigerians. The trade union movement played pivotal roles in the anti-colonial movement. They played frontal roles. They suffered. The leaders suffered gravely. We all know the travails of Michael Wood, and now it was dealt by the colonial government. Unions played pivotal role in the national liberation movement, and they have played pivotal roles even in the post-independence period. The present Trump of union leadership have not done well enough to maintain that legacy and tradition of defense of workers and Nigerians. That is very clear. They have not done their best in protecting workers' rights. They have not done their best in representing workers in politics. There's no doubt about that. But I want to insist that we should not, because of that, vitiate the right of workers to unionization, to representation, to collective bargaining within the context of the law.
Beautiful. My last question to you is this. With respect to the workers sacked by Dangote Refinery, I learned that they have been reabsorbed into the system. But rather than have them work with the refinery, Dangote had thought redistributing them to sugar factory and cement factory and other factories not connected to the refinery yet again. What's your take on this? What do you think PENGASSAN can do in this regard? Remember, he has reabsorbed them back, but he said this time they won't work with my refinery. So how do you think, what do you think is the best step at this point?
Yeah, we are familiar with those, we call it employer status. They want to frustrate you. They want to make sure that at the end of the day, you might have won a battle, but you will lose the war. But it's good that they have been reabsorbed. At least that has sat the right of Nigerians to unionization and to representation in the workplace. That's very, very fundamental. As per what the Dangote Refinery has done, well, it's not too surprising. We've had occasions where workers challenge unfair dismissal in court successfully. They are reabsorbed by the employer, and then they are posted to Gashua. I mean, that's a metaphoric language anyway. Posted to somewhere where you find it difficult to cope with life. They literally approach you and throw you, somewhere where you may have no option than to just leave the work.
Definitely.
So I think PENGASSAN still has a leverage to make an appeal because here the employer has the right to redeploy his workers. We cannot contest that. The PENGASSAN still has a leverage to cry out to say that, look, what's happening is victimization. These workers have been outrightly victimized. Dangote should not necessarily victimize these people. They should be allowed to do their work. Dangote should not portray itself as an enemy of Nigerian working people. So this point can still be made. Some moral suasion can still be applied. But of course, like I said, the employer has his right to deploy his workers.
Very well said. Clemency should be applied at this particular point. When two elephants fight, the grass, bear the brunt. Unfortunately, Nigerians are bearing the brunt right now. The cooking gas, a 12.5 kg, sells for between 25,000 and 30,000 naira. As a result of these big elephants, fighting. Do you think we would have an end to all of this anytime soon?
Yeah, there will be an end when employers are made to respect workers' rights. Employers anywhere in the world do not want to employ workers' rights. Government, part of the responsibility of government is that employers are made to respect those rights within the ambits of the law. And that's why the Nigerian government has failed Nigerian workers by consistently standing on the side of employers when workers' rights are trampled upon. The Nigerian government itself has been very bad employers anyway, because we have seen how they have related with their own employees. We know how Nigerian government treats academic workers, the ASU members, which has also threatened to go on strike. Very on account of the absolute neglect of the government at all levels of the education sector. So the point being that government should do its job. Part of the job actually is to protect the weak, to protect workers, to protect basic rights, basic constitutional rights. That's what determines a democracy. Democracy is not just about the ritual of four-year elections, periodic elections. That's not what determines the nature and content of a democracy. More so when those elections are always not very credible all the time. So that doesn't define those kind of elections don't define your democracy. What actually defines democracy is respect for the rule of law, respect of the rights of all, especially the weak, like working people, and so on and so forth. These are what defines democracy. So our appeal is that government will pay more respect to this right and will compel employers rather than encouraging them to violate those rights. We compel them to respect basic workers' rights. So if we have that, all these needless pains will stop, will cease. The point has to be made that unions don't enjoy going on strike. Unions don't enjoy going on industrial actions because invariably they themselves are injured in the process. They resort to it as very last option when all other avenues of dialogue and peaceful contestation have ceased. Then they have to go on strike, they have to picket, and so on and so forth. But in this particular instance, I want to believe that since this issue has been laid to rest one way or the other, normalcy will soon be restored, the supply lines will be reopened, and we'll start very soon to have gas supplies in the fuel stations and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you so very much. Yes, thank you so very much, sir. And it's very important to state here that the Nigerian Labour Act actually addresses workplace injuries. Workers also have rights to form trade unions and engage in collective bargaining, which is fundamental at this point. Thank you so very much, Mr. Gbenga Komolafe, for being here. Truly do appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so very much once more, sir. That's just about the time we have. We'd love to say thank you to you for making this a date. Please do well to visit us. You can find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Gwebike. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.